everyone. Welcome to Songwriter Spotlight. My name is Sonia. I'm your host this evening, and Songwriter Spotlight is brought to you by the West Tennessee Delta Heritage Center in Brownsville, Tennessee. We are a music heritage destination, and we invite you to stop by and visit with us and explore the Tina Turner Museum, the Sleepy John Estes Home, and the 3 regional museums located here at the center. We're at exit 56 off of I-40 in Brownsville. Tonight we have a very special guest. We have Yolanda Harper. She hails from Texas and now resides in Memphis, Tennessee. Her instrument is a little bit unusual, at least for our series, and so I'm hoping you will help me welcome her. Yolanda, thank you so much for being here tonight. It's a pleasure to have you in Brownsville.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Sonia. Thank you for having me.
So you are our first Autoharp.
Really? Okay.
For this series, yes. So I'm excited to learn about it and about you. So why don't we start with you? Tell us who Yolanda Harper is.
Well, I am definitely an eclectic artist. I began performing with storytelling and community theater and school plays. And I just love music in so many different genres. So I actually write in many genres. My go-to genres are primarily country and children's, but I also write blues, I write Latin music and Spanish, I write a little bit of R&B and soul, a little pop and rock, but like I said, my go-to is probably more folksy type of music.
Tell me a little bit how you wound up in Memphis, Tennessee.
Well, I'm from a little town called New Boston, Texas. You'll hear a little bit more about my hometown later. But if you've ever driven from Little Rock to Dallas on Interstate 30, you've driven right through my little hometown. It's about 4,000 people, and I was living actually at the time in South and working in South Texas. It was about 9 hours away from my parents, and they were getting a little older, and I wanted to live closer to them. And I found an opportunity to move to Memphis, and so I was 2 states away, but only 4.5 hours away from my parents.
So let's just dive right into your first song. Tell us a little bit about it and your inspiration for it.
Well, the first one we're going to do is called The Mulberry Tree, and I'm a nature lover. I love hiking and spending time outside, and so I was going into my backyard to feed the birds, and there's a row of wild peppermint had come up to the left of the bird feeder. That'll come important in the song a little bit. And then to the far end of my yard, there's this mulberry tree that my dad brought to me from Texas. And I looked at it and I said, you know, I need to write a song about a mulberry tree. So I went in the house and got my harp and I got a chair and I sat down underneath the mulberry tree and I wrote this song. Making clumsy French kisses Through the years, we have been blessed to see the love of God, good friends and family. Should the Lord call us home to be, heaven would be you and me under that mulberry tree. Just you holding me, so alive and free. Sipping peppermint tea under the mulberry tree. Me calling you honey, you calling me baby, to continue our happy ever after story. Yes, heaven to me is you and me under that mulberry tree. Just you holding me, so alive and free. Sipping peppermint tea under the mulberry tree. Me calling you honey, you calling me baby. Loving our happy ever after story. Loving our happy ever after story.
So how did you get started in music? When did your love of music start?
Oh, I would say my entire life. There was always music in our home. Growing up, my mom used to joke, she would say I sang before I spoke. I guess my little Googling had a little rhythm to it or something, but so I've just always loved music. And all different types. I was fortunate for parents to play lots of different types of music, and then through school and radio, of course, I was exposed to quite a bit.
So is the Autoharp your first instrument?
No, actually, my very first, well, besides a little recorder like we had in first grade, but my first instrument was the saxophone in middle school. I played the saxophone for a while, and it was in the marching band for a while. And I actually just started playing the Autoharp going on 6 years ago. I've been a singer for quite a while, and I was surfing YouTube looking for some new material, and I ran across this video of Mother Maybelle Carter playing the Autoharp, and I was mesmerized. And I said, oh, I want to do that. I want an Autoharp. So I got my first little Autoharp, and I started trying to play it. I went to some workshops and watched a lot of videos. I'm still not Mother Maybelle Carter's level yet, but I'm learning, and I do love the instrument, and I use it to write a lot of music as well.
When did you start songwriting?
I would say I completed my first song when I was about 11. I started with storytelling and poetry before that, and we had this family activity that we would read a story or a poem and put it in our own words, and a lot of times I would sing my little poems, and so my favorite all-time children's story, or actually it was a poem growing up, was The Bluebird and the Chickadee, probably why I feed birds today. And so my first song when I was about 11 was a retelling of The Bluebird and the Chickadee story.
I'm assuming your next song has roots in New Boston?
Well, somewhat. It's a family. I write a lot of family. If I'm not writing about nature or crime dramas on TV, then I'm writing about family-related stuff. And this one is called My Grandfather's Voice, and it's obviously inspired by our grandfather. And some of the scenes are kind of just typical grandparent, parent scenes as well. But it's very much bluegrassy. You never heard him yell, never heard him scream, never heard him fuss or cuss. But you could hear him pray at the break of day. I'll always cherish my grandfather's voice. When I
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
So you brought an accompanist with you today. Would you like to introduce him?
I would. I'm delighted to have with me Joe Matthews, multi-instrumentalist, producer, songwriter, and just all-around wonderful human being in person. So when you hear those little fancy, cool notes coming out, that's Joe over there.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everyone.
So Joe's no stranger to our series, and one of these days we're going to get him on here as the spotlight himself.
Absolutely.
How did y'all meet?
We met at a Bartlett Songwriters Alliance get-together, and Joe played for me in a women's showcase, songwriter showcase, and he and some other friends and got together, and we started a little band called Major Six, with Joe named. And we've been, I guess, going on 3 years that we've probably been playing together.
Yeah.
How has COVID affected your songwriting?
Well, with so many gigs canceled, I've had more free time to write songs, and I actually have written a lot of songs. And it had always kind of been, I say always, for the past couple of years, it had been on my to-do list to learn how to do the blues, to write the blues songs. And so I had more time, and so I started watching some videos and doing some online workshops, and have written over 30 blues songs in the past year and a half. Different types, some Chicago, some Texas blues, different types of blues genres, so in that style. And then I've written some kind of inspirational, encouraging songs as well.
So what's the next song you're going to play for us?
Well, the next song is called The Love Letter, and it's kind of a tribute to my parents. It was inspired, I was flipping through some old family photos, and my dad was 6 feet 6 tall, and so when you're 3, 4 years old, that looks like 10 feet tall, and there's a picture of us hiking, and my mom caught me looking up at my dad like this in the picture, and that inspired the opening of the song, and the subsequent scenes go back and forth. Some are dad, some are mom, but it's a letter that I'm writing to them, the love letter, a letter to my first loves. I look at your picture on my wall and remember how to me you always seem 10 feet tall. I keep your number in my phone, see if you'll call, even though you've already given this world your all. Just like plants lean to the side of the house where the sun shines brightly through. Folks say I have leanings that resemble you. I look at me and I see them too. The way you taught me to work hard and pray and play a little bit each and every day, to speak my mind in a way that's kind, 'cause some things said you can't unsay. I feel it today, your own special way. You're still bringing sunshine to brighten my cloudy day. Random bursts of happiness breaking through
talked a little before we started, and I learned that you're quite the world traveler, and that while you're out performing your music, you've also written children's music.
Yes, I love to write children's music. So one of my early influences, I didn't mention, was Sesame Street. And my dad was an educator, and so there's certainly education in the blood, and so I like to write children's music. And there's a consistent theme in the children's songs I write. There's songs help us appreciate ourselves and others, and then often might teach a concept. Like one song I have, the Hello World Groove, teaches greetings in 14 different languages. And then I recently released a song, Numbers Are Fun, which teaches some basic counting and scales in 3 different languages. So.
That's right, you're multilingual too.
A little bit.
Tell us about your music that you've put out. I believe one of your albums was in Spanish?
Yes. So my first album actually was Spanish, and a fluke. I didn't expect the first one to be Spanish. I had released like a few singles before that, but I was vacationing in Ecuador. Had always wanted to go to the Amazon rainforest and had an opportunity, and I made a contact there who actually asked me about music and was surprised when I busted out singing a song in Spanish and invited me to come back and set up some places for me to do a little 3-city tour in Ecuador. So I put together a Spanish album. And actually, he told me to look up songs by Nat King Cole in Spanish, which at the time I didn't know Nat King Cole sang in Spanish, but he actually has 3 albums in Spanish and Portuguese. So I learned something by going to Ecuador about Nat King Cole.
Well, tell us about your next song. What inspired this?
Well, this is definitely inspired by my hometown, New Boston, Texas. It's one of those towns that high school, middle school football and basketball are way more important than college sports are. But it's just a nice, sweet little country town, and so I wrote a song about it. And I like to it's got a little bit of comedy in it too, because I like songs that make you laugh too. 3, 4. Now don't you blink while traveling I-30. You might miss the Texas Trinity. New Boston, oh Boston and Boston, we call it good old NB. I must look at but plenty to see. Take a ride if you dare, come go with me. NB, New Boston, Texas. NB, Texas Trinity. NB, New Boston, Texas. Take a ride, come go with me. Now for a county that's supposed to be dry, Uncle Joe stays mighty darn wet. Ain't no gambling going on round here. How much you wanna bet? Grandma's full of wisdom and ready to pray after busting hell wide open back in her day. NB, New Boston, Texas. NB, Texas Trinity. NB, New Boston, Texas. Take a ride, come go with me. Now with Daddy smoking on that grill, Memphis and St. Louis can't beat. Mama's making tater salad and slaw, 'cause real men grill nothing but meat. Grandma's frying fish, chicken over and pies. Grandpa's telling stories, Grandma calls lies. NB, Boston, Texas. NB, Texas Trinity. little bit about New Boston, Texas.
That is a fun song. You kind of took a little creative license there, I see. Tell me your inspiration for Dogwood Winter.
Well, I met a delightful couple. This is a co-write. I met a delightful couple when I was at a songwriters workshop about a year and a half ago at Dollywood, and we stayed in contact, and we listen to each other's music and support each other at different events. And we've been saying we need to co-write. So finally we said, let's do it. We're going to co-write. So we got together on the Zoom and start putting some ideas out there. They live in East Tennessee, and we wrote this song actually last month. This is kind of the dogwood winter season where things are starting to bloom. It feels like spring one day, and then you get a little cold snap the next day to remind you there's still a little winter in the air. So that's what this song is about. Harsh winter fades, coaxing flowers to bloom. Frosty chill in the air, sun shining, sky blue. Let's hike in the Smokies, hit the trail, me and you. Grab a coat and warm cider, 'cause this cold snap is not through. It's dogwood winter in Tennessee spring. The robins return, trees blossoming. It's chilly, we know, but come on, let's go. It's dogwood winter in Tennessee spring. Dogwood winter, Tennessee spring. Daffodils unfold by divine design. Creeks are singing all lang syne. Rare glimpse of a doe weeks before morning time. Just rambling along your hands in mine. It's dogwood winter in Tennessee spring. The robins return, trees blossoming. It's chilly, we know, but come on, let's go. It's dogwood winter in Tennessee spring. Dogwood winter, Tennessee spring. The woods are beginning to wake up. Black bears are starting to roam. Perhaps we'll see them, or they will see us, wandering through their mountain home. It's dogwood winter in Tennessee spring. Robins return, trees blossoming. It's chilly, we know, but come on, let's go. It's dogwood winter in Tennessee spring. Dogwood winter, Tennessee spring. Beautiful dogwood winter in Tennessee spring. And let me please, I neglected to mention this delightful couple, Laurie and David Easterling, their names. So we had a lot of fun writing together.
Yolanda, I've been impressed by how your songs seem so very well thought out. Your songwriting process, how long does it take you from, say, inspiration to the final project?
It varies. So like Mulberry Tree was probably finished in less than an hour. Other songs, New Boston, Texas came pretty quickly, but Dog and Winter, we got most of it done in a couple hours and then slept on it and came up with some new ideas for it. Sometimes I've got some songs that have taken months, that I get a nugget of an idea and I set it aside and I'm working on something else that might flow. And then sometimes I think you just have to go live life a little longer and get additional inspiration. And so something may happen in the interim and that ends up in the song and I go back and finish it. So I've always got several songs kind of in the hopper, and then other times a song just flows in a matter of minutes.
Joe, thank you for joining us again. Come back anytime. Yolanda, tell folks how they can find more of your music online.
Well, thank you for that, Sonia. My music is available in the typical online streaming services, so whatever your favorite one is. I've got quite a few singles out in the children's music, the country music, and a few blues pieces and some folk music as well out. And of course the Spanish music is out too as well. And then you can find me on Harper Country Music on Facebook, and Yolanda Harper Entertainment.com is my website.
There you go, folks. Be sure and look Yolanda Harper up online to hear more of her great music. And thank you for being here with us tonight. We hope that you've enjoyed it. We hope that you've enjoyed the Autoharp, and we hope that you will return in 2 weeks when we will spotlight another West Tennessee songwriter. Yolanda, thanks again for joining us. Thanks for sharing your music and your songs with us. Tell me what you brought to play us out.
I will do Summers on the Farm. It's very much a typical Yolanda Harper song, so lots of happy memories. I call it a happy bluegrass song.